The faint light of dawn seeped through the curtains of the safe house, painting the room in soft hues of gold and grey. Agu sat slumped against the wall, his hand resting near the bandage wrapped tightly around his ribs. Kunle paced near the window, his knife spinning between his fingers in a familiar rhythm. Amaka stood by the desk, eyes darting between her laptop screen and the map displayed on it.
Adisa's reach is wider than we thought,
Amaka said, breaking the silence.
He's spreading his forces thin, but there's a pattern here. This site.
She tapped a marker near the outskirts of the city.
It's significant. Security is tighter than anywhere else.
Could be a decoy, Kunle said, his voice steady but skeptical. Or it's where they are hiding something important, Agu countered, leaning forward despite the strain it put on his side. Kunle stopped pacing, his expression sharpening.
I'll find out.
Amaka raised an eyebrow.
You mean now?
Yes, Kunle said, already slipping his knife into his sheath.
You two stay here. I'll do a quick recon, confirm if this site is worth our time. If it's a trap, better I find out alone.
Kunle, Agu started, but Kunle cut him off with a wave.
You are injured. She's our tech. Let me handle this,
Kunle said, his tone leaving no room for argument. He grabbed his gear and slung it over his shoulder.
Keep the comms open. I'll check in every hour.
Agu nodded reluctantly. Stay sharp. With a curt nod, Kunle disappeared out the door, leaving the room feeling emptier. Amaka's gaze lingered on the closed door before she turned back to Agu. The silence between them grew heavier as the hours stretched on. Agu sat by the window, the faint balls of city life filtering through the cracks. Amaka, unable to focus, busied herself cleaning their weapons. You don't trust him to come back, do you? Agu asked, breaking the quiet. Amaka hesitated, then sighed.
It's not that. Kunle is capable, but he takes risks. Too many risks.
He's good at what he does, Agu replied.
So are you,
Amaka said softly, her gaze drifting to the bandage wrapped around his ribs.
But you are not invincible, Agu.
He looked at her, his expression softening. Neither are you. Before she could reply, a faint noise outside the room caught their attention. Agu froze, his instincts flaring. Amaka moved toward the window, peering out cautiously.
It's too quiet,
she murmured. Then came the crash, the window shattering from the next room, followed by the unmistakable sound of boots on the floor. They found us! Agu hissed. Amaka grabbed her gun, but Agu raised a hand. Stay close. We don't know how many there are. The door to their room burst open and two attackers stormed in. Agu reacted instantly, lunging at the first man. His knife flashed in the dim light as he drove it into the attacker's shoulder, spinning to avoid the gunfire from the second. Amaka fired a shot, narrowly missing her target as the second man closed in. Agu, caught in a brutal struggle with the first attacker, couldn't get to her in time. The second man raised his weapon, aiming squarely at Amaka. In that instant, time seemed to slow down. Agu, adrenaline overriding the pain in his side, broke free from his assailant and threw himself forward. His body collided with Amaka's, knocking her to the ground as the gun fired. The shot missed by inches, shattering a glass lamp behind them. Agu rolled onto his back, shielding Amaka with his body as the second attacker tried to reload. Summoning every ounce of strength, Agu reached for his knife and hauled it. The blade found its mark, embedding itself in the attacker's chest. The man crumpled, his weapon clattering to the floor. Amaka's breath came in shallow gaps as she looked up at Agu, his face mere inches from hers.
You saved me.
His voice was hoarse, his body trembling from the effort. I couldn't let them take you. For a moment, the chaos around them faded. Amaka reached up, her hand brushing against his cheek.
You're insane, Agu.
Maybe, he murmured, a faint smile tugging at his lips. But I'll do it again. The sound of distant sirens pulled them back to reality.
Agu winced as he sat up, his ribs screaming in protest. Amaka helped him to his feet, her arms slipping around his waist to support him. "We need to move," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Hours later, they were holed up in a new safe house, a nondescript apartment far from the chaos. Agu sat on the edge of a worn sofa while Amaka cleaned the blood from his side. "You tore it open again," she muttered, her frustration barely masking her concern. "I didn't have a choice," Agu replied, his tone soft. Her hands paused as she looked up at him. "Agu, you don't always have to throw yourself in front of danger." He reached for her hand, his fingers brushing against hers. "This wasn't just danger. It was you. I couldn't lose you, Amaka." Her breath caught, and for a moment the world outside didn't matter. She leaned in, resting her forehead against his. "You won't. Not as long as we stand together." A distant explosion shattered the quiet, rattling the windows. They rushed to the edge of the room, peering out. Smoke rose in the direction of one of the sites Kunle had mentioned earlier. Amaka's expression hardened. "They're covering their tracks." Agu nodded, his jaw tightening. "Kunle better not be in the middle of that." Her hand found his arm. "We will stop them, Agu. We will stop him." He exhaled, his resolve hardening. Adisa's running out of places to hide. It's time to end this.